morning and welcome to our live coverage of the release of the Orbital ATK Cygnus cargo craft from the International Space Station. I'm Isidro Reyna. You're looking at a live shot of Mission Control Houston, where flight controllers are monitoring systems and walking the crew through the upcoming release of the unmanned vehicle. Flight director this morning is Jeff Radigan. On Capcom, Mike Savinsky, who is talking directly to the crew on orbit. Meanwhile, on board the station, Expedition 52 flight engineers Jack Fisher and Peggy Whitson are in the cupola at the robotic workstation. Fisher will hit the trigger to release the Cygnus from the Canada robotic arm. Release of the Cygnus is scheduled for 8:10 a.m. Central, 9:10 Eastern. The cargo vehicle is packed with more than 4,000 pounds of trash and other disposable items. Fisher and Whitson closed the hatch to the Orbital ATK Cygnus cargo craft yesterday in preparation for its departure from the station today. The Cygnus vehicle was unberthed earlier this morning from its home where it's been for 43 days. Ground controllers sent commands to unbolt the 16 bolts that hold the cargo craft to the station. 4 gangs of 4 bolts apiece hold visiting vehicles to docking ports that are called common berthing mechanisms.
Flight controllers in Dulles.
The flight control room in Houston is working in tandem with the Orbital ATK Control Center in Dulles, Virginia. They will have sole control of operations once the vehicle departs the vicinity of the space station. You're looking at a view of the monitor the crew is looking at through the space station of the Orbital ATK Cygnus cargo craft. This Cygnus cargo craft is named after the SS John Glenn, after the iconic Mercury and Space Shuttle astronaut and senator from Ohio. Glenn served 4 terms as a U.S. senator. His mission of almost 9 days on the Space Shuttle Orbiter Discovery, launched October 29, 1998, when he was 77, made him the oldest human to venture into space. The Cygnus cargo ship launched on April 18th from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida in a United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket. The cargo craft arrived to the International Space Station on April 22nd with more than 7,600 pounds of cargo, including dozens of science experiments. Once it arrived to the station, it was captured by ESA astronaut Thomas Pesquet before robotic controllers took over to maneuver the craft to the Earth-facing side of the Unity module before it was bolted into place. At that time, commands were sent to maneuver the craft to the Earth-facing side of the Unity module, where it was installed by Mission Control Houston.
Houston Station on 2, 11 through 14 have been completed.
All right, copy all, Peggy.
Again on board the station, Expedition 52 flight engineers Jack Fisher and Peggy Whitson are in the cupola at the robotic workstation. Fisher will hit the trigger to release Cygnus from the Canada robotic arm. The crew is working on procedures to send Cygnus on its way at the moment. Once that trigger on the station's robotic arm is hit, the snares will open up on the end effector. The arm will back away. 1 minute later, the first of 2 departure burns will take place. The cargo craft will then move to a safe distance known as the keep-out sphere. As the cargo continues to move, the Cygnus will leave the approach ellipsoid and integrated operations with Mission Control Houston will be completed. Again, the Orbital ATK Control Center in Dulles, Virginia will have sole control of operations once the cargo craft departs the vicinity of the space station. The International Space Station is currently flying over the Pacific Ocean. Moving from northwest to southeast. Flight controllers are paying attention to not just Cygnus, but another U.S. commercial cargo vehicle. With me on console is Rob Navius. Rob?
Good morning, Isidro, and thanks very much, and greetings to our viewers out there. You're looking at the Canadarm2 robotic arm grappled onto the Cygnus resupply vehicle, ready for its release just 32.5 minutes from now. It's a remarkable time at the International Space Station, one of the busiest periods of vehicle traffic in history. On Friday, 2 residents of the International Space Station, Russian cosmonaut Oleg Novitsky and European Space Agency astronaut Thomas Pesquet, returned to Earth for a landing in their Soyuz vehicle on the steppe of Kazakhstan. Yesterday, on Launch Pad 39A at the Kennedy Space Center, there was this. SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket leaped off the launch pad with its Dragon resupply vehicle in tow for a 10-minute ride to orbit. 10 minutes after launch, the second stage of the Falcon 9 rocket deposited Dragon into its preliminary orbit. 2 minutes after that, the Dragon's solar arrays were deployed, and Dragon is en route now to the space station in perfect condition. The SpaceX flight control team in Hawthorne, California, reporting no issues with the Dragon cargo craft that was again launched yesterday from the Kennedy Space Center. Now, Fisher and Whitson, who are on the verge of releasing the Cygnus vehicle from the cupola workstation, the robotic workstation in the cupola, will be in that same exact location 24 hours from now, monitoring the approach of Dragon for its capture and its installation on the Earth-facing port of the Harmony module, the common berthing mechanism port right next door to the Unity module from which Cygnus was detached just a few hours ago. With Cygnus on its way and Dragon now arriving, this is the first time in history that 2 U.S. commercial cargo vehicles will be in free flight at the same time. And just 10 days from now, the Russians plan to launch a Progress resupply vehicle from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan on its own 2-day journey for an automatic docking to the aft port of the Zvezda service module. So Cygnus is about to depart. Dragon is on its way. In fact, Dragon will be conducting 3 rendezvous burns today to refine its path to the International Space Station. Tomorrow, our coverage of Dragon's arrival at the station will begin at 7:30 a.m. Central Time, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Capture of Dragon is scheduled at 9 a.m. Central Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. With that, back to you, Isidro.
Thanks, Rob. Cygnus will remain in orbit for a week. in support of scientific experiments and will deorbit on Sunday, June 11th, where it will burn up harmlessly in the Earth's atmosphere into the Pacific Ocean. The third series of spacecraft fire safety experiments, known as SAPPHIRE, will take place after the Cygnus module departs the space station. The experiment will be activated at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. This series of experiments was established to investigate large-scale flame growth and material flammability limits in space. The experiments are ignited in the Cygnus cargo vehicle after it has departed the station and before its planned destructive re-entry into the Earth. Understanding how fire behaves in microgravity and how different materials propagate flames in space is immensely important for the development of future crew spacecraft. It also helps inform operational protocols for dealing with fire emergencies, particularly when astronauts do not have the ability to exit a spacecraft or quickly return to Earth. Again, you're looking at a view of the Cygnus cargo craft from the International Space Station. This is the view that the astronauts are looking at on board the station at this moment.
About to do the go. You can say on the air.
Prepares for release, Flight Director Jeff Radigan will take a go, no-go poll in the room here in Mission Control Houston. That will be relayed to the flight control room in Dulles, Virginia. Orbital flight controllers have disabled Cygnus's thrusters. There you're looking at a view of the Dulles Control Center in Virginia. Cygnus release is just 23 minutes from now. Again, on board the station, Expedition 52 flight engineers Jack Fisher and Peggy Whitson are in the cupola at the robotic workstation. Fisher will hit the trigger to release Cygnus from the Canada Robotic Arm 2. The crew is working on procedures to send Cygnus on its way at the moment. Once that trigger is hit on the station's robotic arm, the snares will open up. On the end effector, the arm will back away, and Cygnus will fire its engines. The cargo craft will then move to a safe distance known as the keep-out sphere. As the cargo craft continues to move, the Cygnus will leave the approach ellipsoid, and integrated operations with Mission Control Houston will be completed. Again, the Orbital ATK Control Center in Dulles, Virginia will have sole control of operations once the cargo craft departs the vicinity of the space station. In addition to the Sapphire experiment, 4 small NanoRack satellites will also be deployed upon the release of the Cygnus on Thursday afternoon. The NanoRack's Lemur 2 satellites are part of a remote sensing satellite constellation that provides global ship tracking and weather monitoring. The satellites in this investigation are deployed from both the International Space Station and the Cygnus space vehicle, demonstrating the technology at a range of altitude bands. For more than 16 years, humans have lived and worked continuously aboard the International Space Station, advancing scientific knowledge and demonstrating new technologies, making research breakthroughs not possible on Earth that will enable long-duration human and robotic exploration into deep space. The Orbital ATK team in Dulles, Virginia is conducting its go, no-go poll, and that will be relayed to Flight Director Jeff Radigan here in Mission Control Houston. Again, as mentioned, Cygnus will remain in orbit for a week in support of scientific experiments and will deorbit on Sunday, June 11th, where it will burn up harmlessly in the Earth's atmosphere into the Pacific Ocean. Flight Director Jeff Radigan conducting his poll here in Mission Control Houston.
Station Houston on 2 for Cygnus release.
Go ahead on 2.
Prepare for release per step 1.5 and 1.320. The release window opens at 13:10 GMT and closes at 13:47 GMT. Let us know when you've completed your review and briefing.
Capcom Mike Savinsky informing the crew that they are go for release at 8:10 a.m. Central.
Say closing again.
13:47 47.
13:47. And we will let you know when we finished our briefing.
All right, that's a good readback.
Here in Mission Control Houston, all is quiet as flight controllers prepare for the release of Cygnus 15 minutes from now. We are approaching a sunrise as the station is just approaching South America right now.
Houston Station on 2, Cygnus release review is complete.
All right, we copy. Thanks, Peggy.
This is the view inside the cupola where astronauts Jack Fisher and Peggy Whitten are in the robotic control station in the cupola. Everything is at the ready. Again, a view from the cupola in the International Space Station. Just 10 minutes to release of the Cygnus cargo craft. And there's a view of the Canadarm2, still grappled onto Cygnus. A release scheduled under 10 minutes now.
Station Houston on 2, go to check Cygnus configuration per step 1 in 1.602 Cygnus departure monitoring.
That's 11602 for station.
Good readback.
In Houston Station, Cygnus configuration checks complete. Crew is ready for release and departure.
All right, Peggy, you and Two Fish are go for Cygnus release on time at 13:10 GMT, steps through 24 and 1.320. The release window closes at 13:47 GMT.
Copy. We are go for Cygnus release on time, 13:10, and steps 2 through 4 in 1320, 1.320 Cygnus release.
It's a good read back.
Under 7 minutes to the release of the Cygnus vehicle from the International Space Station. Again, Cygnus will remain in orbit for a week in support of scientific experiments and will deorbit on Sunday, June 11th, where it will burn up harmlessly in the Earth's atmosphere into the Pacific Ocean. Station flying just over the border of Chile and Argentina, headed over the South Atlantic Ocean, in the direction of the South Atlantic Ocean. We're getting close to the release of Cygnus. The trigger is hot. Astronaut Jack Fisher at the controls.
Release.
Again, you're looking at a view from the cupola of the International Space Station. You can see one of the solar arrays on the Cygnus cargo vehicle. Approximately 3 minutes to release of the vehicle. Approaching 2 minutes to release of the Cygnus cargo vehicle. Station over the South Atlantic Ocean. Inside a minute to release of the Cygnus cargo vehicle. NASA astronaut Jack Fisher will hit the trigger to release that vehicle. Approximately 30 seconds. And getting confirmation the snares have been opened. The Cygnus vehicle was released at 8:10 a.m. Central Time, 9:10 Eastern, while the International Space Station flew 250 miles over the South Atlantic Ocean. The Canadarm2 will back away momentarily. And the arm is now backing away. View of the Cygnus cargo vehicle from the International Space Station, specifically from the cupola window.
See the arm.
The arm is backing away. You can see that from the cupola window. We expect Cygnus will fire its thrusters. Those commands coming from the Orbital ATK team in Dulles, Virginia. The arm is 4.5 meters away. Good view of Cygnus. Departure burn underway.
Houston Station, Cygnus abort was commanded. And we are in VV mode, depart.
Nominal departure burn of the Cygnus vehicle from the International Space Station.
Okay, Cygnus departure burn is in progress. Continue to monitor departure, steps 2 and 3 in 1.602.
Copy, steps 2 and 3, 1.602.
Good read back.
This is about a 3-minute burn to establish a safe distance between the Orbital ATK Cygnus cargo craft and the International Space Station. Again, the Cygnus vehicle was released at 8:10 a.m. Central, 9:10 a.m. Eastern, while the International Space Station flew over the South Atlantic Ocean. Departure burn continues. Cygnus continuing to move over the South Atlantic Ocean. Again, the Cygnus vehicle was released at 8:10 a.m. Central, 9:10 a.m. Eastern, while the International Space Station flew 52 miles over the South Atlantic Ocean.
Tigo and Vigo are no longer visible. Burn is complete.
The Cygnus cargo craft continues to float away from the International Space Station. A great view of the Earth there. Again, this is the 7th Orbital ATK resupply mission, which delivered more than 7,600 pounds of cargo, including dozens of science experiments.
Performance is also a testament to the team that supported it throughout the mission. Every detail, from the flawless system operations to the perfectly labeled straps to a well-orchestrated symphony of cargo and science logistics, we can't say enough about the team we have the privilege to represent here on orbit and want to send our best wishes on the final phase of its mission. Godspeed and fair winds, SS John Glenn. It has been an honor.
And thanks for the good words. We appreciate them, and same goes for y'all up there. Excellent work up there throughout the whole mission of both arriving, capturing, working with the vehicle, and then the release today. Kudos all around. Station Houston on 2, Cygnus departure burn complete. Safe SSRMS per step 5 in 1.320.
The Cygnus vehicle exiting the keep-out sphere. Astronaut Jack Fisher offering congratulations to Mission Control Houston. Those words acknowledged by Capcom Mike Savinsky, talking directly to the crew on orbit. The vehicle is now outside of the keep-out sphere.
And Houston, the brake is safe, and brakes are on, and arm is safe.
Station Houston on 2, Cygnus has exited the 200-meter keep-out sphere.
Station copies. And do we have a go to move the PCSs back to their nominal locations?
Peggy, you have a go.
Okay, thanks.
The Cygnus vehicle was released at 8:10 a.m. Central Time from the International Space Station as it flew over the South Atlantic Ocean. The vehicle exited the keep-out sphere. The International Space Station released the Cygnus cargo vehicle at 8:10 a.m. Central Time. The Cygnus cargo craft continues to move away from the International Space Station at a safe distance, where it will spend a week in free flight in support of scientific experiments. As the cargo craft continues to move, the Cygnus will leave the approach ellipsoid in approximately 8 minutes, and integrated operations with Mission Control Houston will be completed. Again, the Orbital ATK Control Center in Dulles, Virginia will have sole control of operations once the cargo craft departs the vicinity of the space station. Astronaut Jack Fisher released the Cygnus cargo vehicle on time at 8:10 a.m. Central Time. Cygnus executed a departure burn from the International Space Station, and Jack Fisher took an opportunity to congratulate flight controllers here in Houston and the Orbital ATK team in Dulles, Virginia. Let's listen into that.
Tigo and Vigo are no longer visible. Burn is complete.
The Cygnus cargo craft continues to float away from the International Space Station. A great view of the Earth there. Again, this is the 7th Orbital ATK resupply mission, which delivered more than 7,600 pounds of cargo, including dozens of science experiments.
Performance is also a testament to the team that supported it throughout the mission. Every detail, from the flawless system operations to the perfectly labeled straps to a well-orchestrated symphony of cargo and science logistics. We can't say enough about the team we have the privilege to represent here on orbit and want to send our best wishes on the final phase of its mission. Godspeed and fair winds, SS John Glenn. It has been an honor.
Less than 4 minutes away from approaching the approach ellipsoid, and integrated operations with Mission Control Houston will be completed. Again, the Orbital ATK Control Center in Dulles, Virginia will have sole control of operations once the cargo craft departs the vicinity of the space station. The International Space Station is crossing the west coast of Africa, moving from southwest to northeast over Cameroon. And next up for the crew, the robotic capture of Dragon is set for Monday, June 5th at 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern by NASA astronaut Jack Fisher, backed up by Peggy Whitson. NASA TV coverage begins Monday at 7:30 a.m. Central, 8:30 a.m. Eastern. Yesterday, the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket launched at 4:07 p.m. Central Time from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, sending Dragon into orbit for its 2-day trip to the International Space Station. About a minute and a half away from approaching the approach ellipsoid.
Station Houston on 2, Cygnus has exited the approach ellipsoid.
Fantastic news. Thanks.
Flight Director Jeff Radigan congratulated the Cygnus Mission Director in Dulles, Virginia. Again, this is the 7th Orbital ATK resupply mission, which delivered more than 7,600 pounds of cargo, including dozens of science experiments. Cygnus will spend a week in free flight in support of these scientific experiments. And with that, we're going to wrap up this morning's broadcast as we say farewell to the SS John Glenn. Be sure to watch the robotic capture of Dragon, set for tomorrow, June 5th at 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern. NASA TV coverage begins Monday at 7:30 a.m. Central, 8:30 a.m. Eastern. Thank you for joining us this morning. And with that, we'll go ahead and sign off. This is Mission Control Houston.